friends, welcome back to Beyond the Ink, the podcast where we celebrate the magic of Disney Lorcana and help everyday players level up their game. So whether you're sleeving up your first deck or chasing the elusive top 16 or top four, or top one, it'll all be great. We're here for the fun, the fandom, and the strategy. So let's be real. When a new set drops, half of us are sitting there staring at the cards like, what even goes together? Today's guest is about to help fix that. So I'm super thrilled to welcome JDRR, competitive player, deck building guru, and the coach for a special squad in the ICL known as the Flower Squad, right? Is that it? Flower
Flower Farm.
Farm. Flower Farm, not squad. I'm thinking girl squad today. Flower Farm. And he's known for breaking down high level concepts in a way that newer casual players and competitive players alike can actually use. I actually took a deck one of your students played in the ICL, sleeved it up the
Mhm.
next morning, read your guide for a few minutes, and got top four. So hey,
Easy.
yeah,
Easy.
easy peasy. So we're gonna do that. But yeah, so today we're just gonna talk about how to figure out your best deck style, what to do when a new set launches and throws everything into chaos, and how to know if coaching is right for you. So let's get into it.
All right.
Yeah. So for those of you who haven't had the pleasure, tell us a little bit about your Lorcana journey. How did you get into coaching and everything that you're doing right now?
Okay. So a little bit backstory first. Most people around my age probably grew up with Pokemon cards, or at least knew of it. So that's kind of just. I mean, when I was younger, I just collected it, right? And then I didn't actually like play trading card games until Yu-Gi-Oh came around. And then so that was probably like, well, middle school, I would say. Middle school, yeah. So I started playing that. I wasn't super competitive or anything because, we're like 12, 13. Like what do we know, right? But I had a lot of fun playing it. And that was like one of like it brought back, it's like a memory that I have. Well, you know how like we all have like these childhood memories and it's just like something that just brings you a lot of joy. Like now that you think back about it. So I did play that, like other TCGs from that time till now. It's about like 20 years now, on and off. And like sometime like after the pandemic, I kind of just stopped playing TCGs like altogether, like competitively, just because it's just like, I don't know, like I don't really feel that joy or that spark anymore.
Yeah.
And then Lorcana came around and I was like, you know what, it's another game. Like, uh, I've tried so many other games where I didn't like it. That's why I always went back to Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh. But I was like, okay, fine, I'll try it. Like it's Disney. Who doesn't like Disney? Well, some people don't, but
Duh.
most people do, right? Most people do, and that's why probably most of us are here, right? Because of
Yeah.
Disney. So I was like, yeah, like let's give it a try. And then since that day, I think like August 2023 when we could start playing for the first time, and I was like, then that was hooked, and then that's kind of how it all started. Um, then that's and then when we get started with everything, I'm sure everyone can relate to this. Then you're like, oh, you want more, you want to get better, you want to keep playing, you want to keep practicing. You're like, I'm not good enough, I want to keep playing, back and forth. So I did a whole lot of that, and then after a while, I was like, oh, I'm actually not too bad at it because back then we had an online client we could play on Pixelborn.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm not that bad because I'm able to play against the highest ranked players in the world at the time. Right. So I was like, okay, not too bad. So then, and then that's kind of like how the whole journey started. Then 20 Lore Pro kind of came and started growing really quickly. And I also realized that out of all the TCGs, like the Lorcana community has something a little bit different than all the other games. It's a lot
We're just
more.
we're just better. I mean, sorry. Just kidding.
I think it was like, what's the word? Um, it felt more like a community. It was like more wholesome, more genuine, even. Like even the people that I found, like the people that I met, they're all like very nice. They're very genuine. They're all very like welcoming. They're all willing to help as well. And that's what really I think attracted me to the game as well, because of the people that were in it.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I
right.
totally feel that. That's I mean, that's how we kept going. My best friend and I walked in with our kids just to because we're Disney moms. I literally wear Disney every
Yeah.
day. Now that I work from home, no one can tell me I can't, except I'm my
Yeah.
own boss.
Yeah.
But we were like, all right, we'll play, and we played with our kids. Like all of our kids came, minus I have a really really little one, and my oldest son who's 12 now, and her oldest son who is about to be 10. We've just never left. We've shown up every single week, and we've
Right.
traveled to things and met people, and I don't know, I have some of the best friendships that I've built because we share something that's really exciting, but they're also kind of
Right.
awesome people. Well, now I want to
Right.
pause really quick because you said something. So you mentioned 20 Lore Pro. Do you want to
Mhm.
walk us through that for people that might not know what 20 Lore Pro is?
Yeah, so it's like a Discord community where um, it's a little bit more like competitive focused compared to the official Disney Lorcana Discord, where it's just kind of like more general for everyone. So it's like, yeah, a little bit more focused on the competitive side of things. And so, like, ever since I was like set one, set two, I was pretty involved with the community, just like, play testing, theory crafting, engaging with the community, and just like helping people because like other people in the past had helped me too when I first started the game. So then I was giving back as well, helping other people. I didn't really like think too much about it, like where it was going to lead to. Like I just wanted to help other people, get better at the game that we all love, right?
Yeah, no,
And
I
so
love that.
eventually that right, and then eventually I became known for the guy that plays Purple Steel, and then eventually Blurple as well,
The
in the 20
Blurple
lore
guy.
community. Yeah, the Blurple
I love
guy.
the
Right?
names that
So
we've come up with. They're like so fun.
yeah, I don't know where it came from. I just kind of ran with it.
Yeah.
So that's when like I just giving advice, like helping people, like not really coaching them, but just giving them like strategy, things like that. And then I didn't really get into coaching. And people were just like, "Do you coach? Can you help me?" Because like I was playing a deck that they really were interested in, or maybe they felt like the ideas I was sharing was valuable and they wanted to get more. Because they like back then they would you would have that you would have like a role that says like you hit top 25 for the season. So it was kind of like street cred that you
Oh
would
yeah,
have in
yeah.
the
On
Discord, right?
Pixelborn.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, on Pixelborn. So then everyone kind of knew because you had a different color name and all that attached to you. So then people started to reach out to me, and then I was like, okay, yeah, like I'll do it because I enjoy it, and I only enjoy coaching. I know not coaching is not for everyone, like in terms of like actually helping people, but coaching is something that I enjoy because it's something I do outside of the game, like in my personal life. I used to be a teacher as well.
Oh,
Like,
awesome.
uh,
Yeah, I think it does
mhm,
take a special personality, and kind and depending on what it is. I mean, so let's talk coaching. So for the average player, how would
mhm.
they know when coaching might be a good fit for them and a good investment for them?
I think that So how I explain coaching to people is that everyone and anyone is capable of getting better, right? The difference with coaching versus no coaching is that do you want to walk to Hawaii or do you want to take the plane and fly there? It's about speed. It's not about being able to do it, and that's what really coaching is helping you learn concepts faster and getting you to where you want faster, as opposed to figuring it out on your own, right? So with that being said, I think that most people get coaching when they feel stuck, when they feel like they don't know why they can't improve. They're not getting better, even though they're trying to practice. They're reading, they're watching videos, watching gameplay, things of that nature, and they're just still not improving, still not getting better. Then maybe at that time it is worth considering coaching and getting someone else's opinion because you know how just like it's not just like in the game, it's just like anything in life. If we have a different perspective from someone else, then you're like, oh, well, I might not have actually thought of that because like we kind of have our own blinders on. We can only see what we can't see and we don't know what we don't know. Right. So
Yeah.
I think that's when I would recommend people if they're serious about getting better to get coaching.
Yeah, I do think there's also a good a lot to say about choosing the right coach for you, whether it's personality, whether it's play
Hmm.
style or deck type.
Hmm.
I've seen some people, it's like, well, really want to get help and I want to get coaching, but who do I go to? I do think one of the things that I find very beneficial, I know you have a few free guides on MetaFi. There's a lot of free guides on
Hmm.
MetaFi. I recommend people checking those out when you're first starting
Hmm.
and trying to learn a deck. Um,
Yep.
I mean, coaching costs money. I mean, some people coach for free. There's
Of course.
communities where you can get a lot of free advice. I think maybe even Flower Farm. I know for us, Ink Nights Gaming is one that I'm part of where 20, similar to 20 Lore Pro, um, you can go in and ask
Hmm.
questions and you have a lot of people that will give you feedback.
Hmm.
So that's what's helped me. But I will say finding a coach and finding a person with a Metafy guide that
Hmm.
writes really well where you can understand is also super
Hmm.
helpful because that just
Right.
kind of gives you that guideline so that when and if you do choose coaching, you can ask more impactful questions that move the needle as
Right.
opposed to just paying for something that, all right, I can read through.
Right.
But I
Right.
know for me that I purchased Kindle Burdett's guide for Ruby Amethyst. I'm one as similar to what I did last weekend for Set Champs. I'll just pull a deck and call someone like, all right, walk me through what this needs to look like. This is my first card game, so I'm not like some savant
Right.
by any means.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if I can, I read through his, I talked to someone that played it, and I went and won a mat the next weekend with it
Uh-huh.
because it's so helpful. And if you're, it was my play style, so I knew what my play style
Right.
was. I had a deck
Right.
and I could read that. But I oh my gosh, the amount of Googling I did for terms because I was so nervous to ask questions like, "What's a cantrip?"
Yeah.
What is like, "What's a wheel?" Like, "What does wheel mean?" And so I've
Right.
since then learned Magic players, like, bringing their past trauma into
Yeah.
Lorcana.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
But,
And
yes, I mean, I know you have some
mhm.
Metafy guides. What's your advice on that?
Well, like, so Metafy guides also cost money, albeit it's not very much for the most part. Like most guides are around like $15. So it's not like a ton, but I get it. It's still an investment of some sort. And no one wants to invest in something and get nothing or not get what they paid for, right? At the end of the
Yeah.
day. Um, so in that regard, it's tough when you're finding a coach because you're just like, well, um, I'm just gonna go find the most decorated player who's won the most DLCs or whatever, right? The most popular one. Um, and yeah, like you could go to them, but the question you always want to ask yourself is that the right fit for you? Like it's kind of like therapy, right? Um, you don't just call the first therapist and be like, all right, I'm gonna, you know, talk my
Yeah.
heart out and spill the tea with you, right? No, like you're gonna obviously do your due diligence and even just like having a quick conversation like 10, 15 minutes with the coach to see if they would be the right fit for you first, right?
Yeah,
Because
and
like
learning
if hmm,
go ahead.
I was gonna say like if they're not even gonna spend like 10 minutes to talk to you, like maybe it's not the right fit.
Yeah, no, I
Right,
agree,
because
and
like, if that's how you're gonna start the relationship, right? Like, I am not gonna talk to you, but pay me first before I talk to you, like
yeah.
yeah.
When I get there's personality differences. I also find, like, learning styles are very, very different. I'm
Mhm,
incredibly neurodivergent, so that
mhm,
comes into play when I talk to somebody and how they teach. Um,
right,
but there's a lot of people like yourself that has content out there where you can kind of do a vibe check and then message and be like, "All right, hey." And
yeah,
most of the people that I've spoken to, not that it's an exhaustive list, a lot of coaches, to your point, the good ones, want you to be as successful just as much as you do, and they wanna make sure they're a good fit because they don't wanna waste, their
yeah,
time or charge you money if it's not gonna work out.
yeah,
And I do think there's a lot to say, like, you work with one coach, and then if you ever wanna dabble in something else, because there are some coaches that like, we all have our secret sauce and things that we're really good at.
yeah,
And so there's some coaches where it's like, I would never go to them for X, but I would go to them for this because they're really,
yeah,
really good at explaining those things.
yeah,
Um, but yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, so like most coaches are kind of like specialists, right? Like they like most people are known for like a specific deck, like myself included. But like what I like to focus more on in general for coaching, for most people at least, is like the deck you play, like it matters, but it really doesn't matter that much because that's just kind of the vehicle that you're driving,
Mhm.
right? Like because no matter what deck you play, the concepts of the game stay the same, right? Like understanding, tempo, who has control of the board, like when you should be questing, when you should not be questing. Those are the same regardless of the deck, right? So I like to encourage people that like you have to know yourself and what your goal is first. Like, do you just want to be really good at one deck, or do you want to understand the game as a whole and then once you have that base knowledge, then you can just do whatever after because you understand what to do.
Yeah,
So it
and
really just
that
comes
was
down
my
to the
take.
person.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was my take. I like consuming as much information as possible. I wrote a
Hmm.
note on this because I have this whole theory that we can predict what somebody's play type or deck style is based on random
Hmm.
questions, and now I added, "What car do you prefer to drive?" Because I feel like maybe that's I don't know. I just one day it's probably gonna come up with nothing, but I'm gonna try to come up with some weird like quiz of
Oh,
kind of like a
I have
sorting for
one that I
Harry
share
Potter.
with my
You do?
people.
Okay, send it to
I
me. But
do. I
this
do.
like I need to see it. It's like I imagine this being like the sorting hat for Harry Potter,
No,
except for you
it's
answer. Have
much
you?
more simple. It's much simpler than that.
Okay, we're gonna make it
Like
fun
the
here, though.
people in the flower farm know. Yeah, yeah, I'll share it
Okay,
with you. So,
okay, y'all just share it. I'm excited, but I need
have you
to
ever
ask
played
him.
Mario Party before?
Mario Party? No, I played Mario Kart.
Yeah. Okay. So you know how Mario Party, you just basically roll a dice and then you just move up the game board,
I've not played it,
like the
no,
game.
but I'll
Like, you
sure.
never played it? Okay. So basically, it's like a game board with Mario characters, and you have to move around. You need to collect stuff, right? Collect the stars, as many stars
Okay,
and
sure. Yeah,
coins as
yeah, yeah.
possible. So every character can has like a special dice. It's not just 1 to 6, right? So some characters have like they're all 6 sided dice, right? So one character might have 3 1s and 3 6s. Another character might have 3 3s and 3 4s. Another one might have 2 0s, 2 5s, and 2 8s or whatever,
I'm
right?
just really grateful I
So
took
just like
Adderall before this, or I wouldn't have been able to follow.
no, no, it's all good. I mean, if we had a picture, it'd be easier to follow.
Yeah. Okay,
But yeah,
I'm following though.
that
I'm just saying
so
I'm really glad because I'm like,
yeah,
okay, I got
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool, cool. Yeah, yeah. So that is just like if you're playing that game, which dice would you pick? Would you pick one that's consistent, that's always rolls 3 or 4s, or would you go for the ones that will sometimes get you a 10, sometimes a 0?
Oh, I'm a consistent person.
Right. So then if you are going to go for that 3 or 4 all the time, then what I would probably suggest for you is some sort of amethyst deck that's very consistent at what it does, but it doesn't have like a high roll where just like if you see these 4 cards, you're going to automatically win the game.
I'm laughing.
Right.
It's like JDRR suggesting an amethyst deck. Never would have seen that coming.
No. Well, you suggested the 3 to 4.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Whereas someone who wanted the 1 or the 6 because they like the high roll potential, like, okay, maybe like Steel Song or Green Steel is maybe something closer to what you want because that's kind of what you like. Right.
We haven't.
So that's kind of how
Yeah.
I vibe check people to see like if when people ask me like what is the deck for me.
So like I have multiple personalities I've decided because mine just depends on how I'm feeling at that moment. Although I will say I love amethyst. Um
Hmm.
I like amethyst. I like being able to have answers. I am not one that like
Mm,
aggro is not something that I'm really a big fan of. Just because I like being able to think through and have ways out, and it's not just about racing them being
mm,
faster.
mm.
But I'm learning that about myself. But I also still want to be personally, I like being proficient in all of it just because I think that makes you a better player. Because if I'm
Fair
sitting
enough.
across, I used to play green steel um, before they killed my favorite squirrel. I tried it a little bit after, but I kind of was like past
Yeah.
it. But I still play it now on occasion, just so when I'm sitting across from that player, I still have a good idea of like, all right, what are they wanting to do? What's going to happen? Because I learn better by doing that by watching. Um,
Mm,
so and talking through it, but no, that's interesting, your
right.
Mario Kart. I have this whole vision of, like, what car do you drive? Like, it needs to be this completely overcomplicated mess, not as easy as yours, just because in my head, it's like have you ever been sorted by the sorting hat, like, on Pottermore?
No, never.
Are you a Harry Potter person?
Not real, not too much.
Oh, sad. What a travesty. Okay, so Harry Potter is what got me into reading, which just is like I love it because I get an escape from life when I read books, but so you can go on their
Right.
website and they ask all these completely unrelated things like
Hmm.
beach or what like you pick these random things. They'll ask you questions, which would you do if there was a door with a lock? Like it's just these interesting things, and they come up and tell you like which house you would be in. But yours is much
Hmm.
easier than this. But if I make
I
such
mean,
survey, I'm gonna ask what car they prefer to drive.
yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Like whatever works, right?
Now I know now I need to start surveying all of like the top players that are consistent in decks and see what
Yeah.
car they drive and see if it correlates to like play style or something. That could be a thing. This could be we
Yeah.
might be onto some scientific discovery. I don't know. Probably
Yeah.
not.
Give it a
Uh,
try. Give it a try.
yeah, but so speaking of play style and speaking of deck types, so
Hmm.
what questions should a player if they're just walking into this,
Hmm.
what questions should they ask themselves, when we're looking at aggro versus control versus a mid-range being a good fit for a person?
I would suggest that you play all of them first and see what you like. Because at the end of the day, this is a game and it's about having fun. So if you're not
Yeah,
having fun, like what are you doing anyway? Right? Like play the deck that's the most
1000%.
fun to you, which is why I play these two decks, because that's what I find enjoyable. Although I know it's not the best decks out there, right? There are better decks, right? Subjectively or not subjectively, objectively. But I like it and I have fun. So that's what's more important to me.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
1,000% agree. 1,000%. Okay. So speaking of new decks and speaking of that,
Mhm.
um, we have a new set coming out soon. So when new sets are coming out and they're exciting, but they're also overwhelming, where do you start or where should players start when it comes to brewing or adapting their decks? I know that we have one more set before we go to Fabled, which will
Mhm.
move us into that whole new era
Mhm.
of oh my gosh, what's the word? It went
Like
rotation.
rotation?
Yeah, it went
Yeah.
poof. Um, so where do you start? Like, what does that look like when you're looking at adapting your like any current deck that you have for a new set?
So with your deck, the first thing I would look at is obviously all the new cards that you can play, and ask yourself, do any of these cards fix the current weakness that your deck has? That's the very first thing I would ask. And if not, then it's like, well, why are we playing the card apart from, the card's new and it's fun, right? Because we all like new things. But like from a competitive standpoint, if you're going to add new cards, it's like you always ask yourself why and what problem does it solve? Because if it doesn't solve the problem, then really, why are we playing it? Like, are you making the deck better? Um, or are you just making it more fun? Like those are two different goals, right? Um, and if there are like a certain couple cards that you feel like have potential to fix certain weaknesses of your deck, well, what I like to do is play four of them in the deck first. So that I like to play four of them first for testing, because you see the card more often, so that you can see how the card actually performs in your deck, right? Because like some people are like, oh, well, this card is a two of. Like this is a tech card that you should only play two in the deck. Well, if you only play two while you're testing and trying to like come up with a new list for the new set, like you're probably not going to see it enough, and then you don't really know how good or how bad the card is. So then I would start with four. And I would also take out the cards that you know for sure are good cards in your deck, so that you can fit those other cards in. So, for example, if we're on the topic of Amethyst, like for example, Merlin Goat, where we know the card is good, right? We don't need to test it more for another set to know that it's good. Like we know it's been good since set two. So take it out, put something else new in place of it, so that you can see how the card performs. That is how like not just myself, but a whole bunch like everyone else in the flower farm, like the whole community there. That's how we all like test things, and just that's how we're able to get a list like optimized really quickly. So like if you remember, like after the Hiram ban in set seven, and
What?
everyone's just like
What was banned? No, I've never heard. Just kidding.
right. Everyone's just like, oh, well, new set. Like, what do we do? Right. And then literally within a week, like the Blurple list popped up everywhere. And we're like, oh, is this really good? But that's because we were able to test really quickly by doing these things, right? With these kind of concepts. And that's
Yeah.
generally
So,
how I would approach it.
and I like what you were saying earlier because I agree. It's something that I've had people ask me when I was talking through decks. But how,
Hmm.
for a newer player that's trying to understand, all right, what are my deck's weaknesses? How do you walk them through that? Like, so when they're saying, "Hey, I'm just losing," how do we equip them
Hmm.
to ask themselves the right question so it's easier for them to communicate that with a coach?
Right. Well, I think they would have to find out why they're losing in the first place. Cause like, are you losing, for example, at 18, 19 all the time? Or are you losing because I don't know, your opponent just keeps removing everything? Or are you losing because you keep inking wrong or you're mulliganing wrong, right? Like there's a lot of reasons why you might be losing. So I think the first step is trying to figure out why you are losing. And if you don't know, then maybe just ask your opponent, maybe ask a friend, someone like at your local store that is maybe a little bit better than you to see if they are willing to help and see like why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do think it's important, a good reminder for everyone, especially new players, if you're not doing this, you know, keeping a notebook or like, bringing a small spiral notebook with you in your league bag, or like a
Hmm.
little, I mean, I keep a little thing like this,
Yeah.
or I text myself so that you can keep track of like your matches and who you played, how you lost. Cause otherwise,
Hmm.
I don't have the memory capacity. I might as well be Dory the fish. So if I don't write it down, I'm not going to remember.
Right.
But that has helped because then when I'm going to a teammate or I'm going to a friend and
Hmm.
saying, all right, here's where I'm at, sometimes I feel like, oh, this is going terrible. But then I actually look at
Hmm.
my win rate and I'm actually really, really doing well. I just didn't
Right.
realize it was just ruby decks that I was having a problem with, or just a steel deck, or,
Right.
something to that effect. So
Right.
keeping a
Right.
list is really important, I think.
Yeah, like definitely keeping tabs on it because what we do as well is like we have a spreadsheet basically of whenever we play a game, we'll write down like what color pairing it is, did we win, lose, like what was the record, also like which version of the deck that we were playing,
Mhm.
and then also how we lost. Because most people know how they lost. It's like, oh, this turn they just killed everything. They played Be Prepared and I had no hand left, so I just kind of lost, right? Because then, like you said, you'll see patterns, and trying to figure out like then you'll see like why you're losing or what you're losing to. So, like you said, like Ruby decks, like well, maybe that is what you're losing to, because most of the time, people we have recency bias, and like things always seem worse than it is. For example, against Steel Song, right? If they high roll you, and, go 1, 2, 3, aerial sings wheel, play all the songs, right? It feels terrible. And then in your mind, you feel like they do this every single game. But then if you write down, because now that's an emotional decision,
Yeah.
right? Right. But if you write it down every time and track the stats, then you look at it and you're like, well, that really only happened like 15% of the time. The other 85% that didn't actually happen, but I'm still losing to it. So then maybe it's like, well, maybe fundamentally we don't understand, or you don't understand how to approach the matchup. That's why you're losing. But we only remember the bad, or really bad times,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I totally feel that. I mean, so it's always really good too to have a team or a coach or a group. I don't know how the flower farm works, but we have a community
Mm-hmm.
attached to ours. And it's always great to sit down and have people that will go back and forth and keep digging with you to help you think through it. So, like, for example, the
Mm-hmm.
Blurple list I played, I don't remember who on your team. I was casting for the ICL.
That's
I
Aaron.
saw it, Aaron. So I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, Blurple's so fun, and this looks fun. And I'd never played Blurple, and I'm like, cool. I'm just gonna do it. And I had been looking at like a win rate matrix, and like over the last couple of weeks off Ink
Right.
Table, trying to figure out like what am I going to bring? What do I feel good with? I had been on Blue Steel at the beginning of the set because I was going to learn Sapphire. Sapphire was the only thing I
Right.
hadn't really played a lot in Lorcana. I had gone through like every
Right.
color combo, so I was trying to
Right. Right.
check off my last bucket list. So I've kind of been that lost puppy of what do I like, and just bouncing
Mm-hmm.
around trying different things. Knowing the set was kind of close. We have no DLCs, so I didn't really have as
Right.
much to like not as much on the line.
Right.
But so I played sets, and the only deck I lost to was on the draw, and it was Ruby Amethyst Evasive with locations. And it was the
Right.
same guy, to be fair.
Right. Right.
I lost to him and then saw him in top four. But so it was an exercise of going back of like, what was it that caused me to lose that? Was it resources? Did they have bigger things? And it really came down
Mm-hmm.
to, I think it was locations. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Now I understand Blurple is supposed to be, is it supposed to be good into Ruby Amethyst?
Yeah.
So that's what I said. What am I doing? I'm like, I probably am just playing it wrong. And so that was something else. Like, maybe you should just watch me play it. And he was like, yeah. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I could just be playing it wrong, which is always the first thing of, am I not
Mm-hmm.
running my lines correctly? Am
Mm-hmm.
I over resourcing myself? And then I did have a friend that I was chatting with that I think you might know, Skylar Duns, and
Yeah.
he told me to ask you about no one drops in Blurple. He's convinced that there needs to be
Right.
one drops in Blurple. So I promised him I would ask you why no one drops.
Okay. Well, in set seven specifically, if you look at the meta as a whole, how many decks were playing like aggro?
I haven't
Maybe
looked
one,
super.
like Sharon
Yeah,
Dogs. Maybe,
yeah,
like maybe.
yeah,
But every
or
other deck
maybe
was,
aggro version of GP maybe, but yeah,
yeah, maybe. But like what we noticed, a very big shift from set six to set seven is that basically every deck was playing like 12, 11, 12 one drops in set six. And then when we got to set seven, they were playing like four, maybe eight at most. Right. And so the reason for the meta shift was because like Hiram was banned. Right.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
because the kind of big control deck of the meta was gone, there was no deck that you just had to go sideways and turbo past them and go under them. So because you don't have that deck anymore, a lot of the other decks cut down on the one drops because now you're not racing anybody. Right. So then, and then the other thing was that what was in the meta? Like a lot of them were Maui Shark decks,
hmm,
right? The DKP red blue and the evasive red purple. You had a lot of Steel Song. You have a lot of Green Steel, and none of those decks you want to play a one drop into, because
yeah,
you play one drop into Cindy, they blast it. You play one drop into Diablo, they blast it. So why are we playing it? What's the point? It's not accomplishing anything, right? And Blurple by nature is a purple deck that usually wins all the purple matchups because you play more top end than all the other ones and you get to ramp. So you get to do everything like a turn sooner, right?
yeah. Do all the
And you
dirty
win by
things.
going
Yeah,
exactly right. You win by going bigger than them. So so if the one drops are not good because you can't really play them turn one to anything, if your job as a deck is to go bigger than all the other decks, um, right? And then the other thing was that discard was pretty popular. There was like green purple discard, green steel, even green yellow to a degree, right? And so if you're in a top decking position, you don't want to be top decking one drops,
I feel so
right?
smart because that's what I said. Like we were just chatting through it, and
Yeah.
I'm finally getting to that point where, and not every deck, but like I love when I feel like I understand, so I have answers to that. You are a good teacher, though. I'm like, you're
Yeah.
not a teacher in your past life because you
Definitely was. Like
certainly are.
what I tell people is that I like to explain concepts to people as if they were five, not to insult them, but
Yeah,
if a 5-year-old can understand what you just explained, then literally anyone can explain, right? Because it's more like simplicity over complexity.
yeah, no, for sure. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, and on the turn on the thing on the one drops, it kind of brings up, with any deck that it applies. I mean, you have Diablo, which is just a really, really good card. I mean, it's
Mhm.
probably one of the best one drop
Right.
purple card that we have. So it's a good point of just because it's a good card doesn't mean it fits right now.
Right.
Um,
Like you have to look at the meta, right?
right.
Oh yeah. So going back to the one drop point, there are very, very, very few decks that the one drops were actually good into, right? And obviously drawing them are bad. So that's why we decided to cut it completely and just lean on Popsicle Bell, because we realized that most decks you can give up a little bit of lore early and then you can catch up in the mid game, because Blurple in the mid game is almost no deck can beat its mid game because of how strong it is. So
Mhm.
we're just really honed in on the strengths of the deck,
Yeah, I was able to
right?
miss my card draw. I mean, I was full sending or sending six almost
Yeah.
like a good bit of the time. I had one matchup against Purple Steel that I missed the first two turns and still won.
hmm Yeah,
Um,
you're fine,
yeah, had it
because there's very
again, I think this
few
week.
turn
Yeah,
one two lore questers. That's why it's fine.
yeah,
They turn one quest at Diablo. I don't really care. It's one lore,
yeah. I actually even
right?
think I might have missed three of my first four just because of really bad card draw. It was horrible. The mulligan was
Yeah,
terrible, and I still won. Um,
right,
Which felt really good, but you can out-resource them later, so you're not running out of steam where other cards are, so, yeah, I
right,
liked
right,
it. I was like, "Ooh, I like it," which, to your point, I like Amethyst, so maybe your
right.
Mario thing, I'll give you your Mario example. That's a winner.
Right.
Because yeah, I
Right.
do love Amethyst, but I also like lighting things on fire, like, going back to
Hmm.
Pixelborn days. I miss
Yeah.
the crackle of, like, the dragon fire smoke on the screen when
Oh
you
yeah.
would, like I miss that so much.
For sure. For sure. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
so kind of talking like, closing up really with the new set stuff, are there
Hmm.
patterns going back to, like, when we're looking at tweaking a current deck that we have, are there
Hmm.
patterns or anchor cards that you always look for first? Or is it truly like, so we're sitting down, we're going, "All right, what problems did we have this set? What are the weaknesses?" We're looking there, or I mean, is there any other thing besides that that you're asking yourself?
Um, yeah. So like the first thing is always how do we fix the weakness. The second thing is like what is the strongest deck? Sorry, not strongest. The strongest card in these colors, and can we play it? Right. And if we do play it, how are we going to build a deck around to make that strategy work? So, for example, what's a card from set eight we can talk about? Um, the whale in Blurple. Like we'll just use Blurple. Like the whale. The 8 cost 6/8 has rush, and then you can discard a card to ready, and so that you can attack again, right? So, when I saw this card, I was like, well, this card is pretty good for Blurple specifically because one of the biggest weaknesses is dealing with a board that's really wide with a whole bunch of little dudes that you can't attack all of them, right? Like Steel Song, which is why it was always one of the worst matchups because they would wheel and then they would play whole new world and then they play like four characters. So you're like, I can't deal with this. But now if they whole new world you play the whale and you already have 7 cards, so you have things to discard already, right? And if you're not against a whole new world deck, well, Blurple usually has a lot of cards in hand anyway because of how much card draw it has. So like discarding like even like 2 cards is not that bad, right? You play the whale, you attack one thing, you discard one card, you attack a second, discard a second card, attack a third thing. It's really not that bad to lose 2 cards because also you can just play Tamatoa the previous
Get
turn,
back,
get
yeah.
2 popsicles back, discard them, and then just away we go, right? So something like that is like, oh, that fixes like one of the weaknesses of the deck. Versus another card that's like, I don't know right now. Um, what's a card this set that you would have to build around?
This set, like, for set 8?
Yeah, like something that's like, oh, this seems like a really good card, but you need to
I
build the
think
entire deck around it.
I there's a lot of chatter on the Beyond the Horizon card.
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, sure. So that card, like, yeah, that discard your opponent's hand or someone's hand, draw
Oh,
three,
yeah,
right?
let me for anyone that doesn't know what it is, that probably would help you if you're listening to this. So it's a 7 cost unequal, it's Sing
Hmm.
Together. It's called Beyond the Horizon, which we do have the Lilo and Stitch live action coming out, so we have a great picture of Nani. Is Nani, right? Yeah, Nani and Lilo and Stitch on a surfboard.
Hmm.
So, anyway, sing together, and it's choose any number of players. They discard their hands and draw 3 cards each. So, if you're playing multiplayer, it obviously can affect multiple. It's not just one
Hmm.
singular opponent.
Hmm. Right. Yeah. So something a very strong card like that, right? That was a very powerful effect. It's like, okay, like what can we do, or what kind of decks can we build around this card that will use this card and really, I don't want to say abuse, but like it is abusing it that we can to win more games with, right? So that's like the other approach I would do if there was like a really strong card in the set. So, or for example, I think in previous sets it was like Tamatoa. Last set, let's say Tamatoa, Happy Toa, and Scrooge. Where like these are very very powerful cards, very powerful effects. It's like how can we take advantage of these cards and build a deck around it, right? Or even like Maui Shark. Like how do we like this is a very powerful effect. How we build around it. So that's
I'm
what I would
really
do.
hopeful,
Um,
speaking of this
mhm.
set, that Mushu has his day because I really want Red Steel to work so horribly. My fingers
Yeah,
are
it's a fan
crossed.
favorite.
Yeah, I'm excited. I was brewing red steel beginning of this last set just because I'm like, oh, this looks fun. Obviously, there's
Mhm.
not enough card draw. There's a lot of issues with the deck. It just couldn't get there. Um, but this might be its time. Maybe,
Maybe. I mean,
maybe.
for for the people watching, it's just like for or even just newer people, right? Set 1 to 4 is such like has such strong cards. which is why like, all the new cards, like, because like I know there are people that I like hear about or talk to. They're just like, the new set hasn't even been out yet and people are dismissing the cards. It's just like, why don't you try these cards out to like before like, oh, before it's not good, or you know what I mean? Or it's like, why are you dismissing it so early? Like you got to give the cards a shot, right? So like for newer people who aren't experienced with like trading card games, it's easy to like you obviously think that way because you think that all these things will impact the game, right? But for people who've been playing the game for a long time, they just know like this is not going to solve X problem that I have with my deck. So it's not about like dismissing it. It's just that set 1 to 4 is way too powerful. Like the cards there are way too strong in comparison to everything else. But like we talked about earlier with rotations, like that would, once you get rid of set 1 to 4, then like everything opens up, right? There's a lot of cards that were almost unplayable in like the highest competitive space because certain cards existed. So for
Yeah.
example, like Let the Storm Rage On, Cinderella, turn 1. You can't play anything with less than 2 health, 3 health, sorry, um, on turn 1 because it
Willpower.
just willpower. Yeah, willpower. That's the correct term. Right. So you can't play anything there turn 1, or it's just like Madam and Fox. You can't really play like really glass cannon things. So things with like a lot of lore on it, like be able to quest really high, but they have less than 4 willpower because they can just play Fox, take it out, and then it feels really bad for you. Right. So certain cards, or even Brawl, you can't, there's a lot of things, or even Medusa. Like the meme is like Dice Medusa. I can't play it. Right.
Yeah.
Um, right. So like things like that is kind of holding back a lot of the other cards in terms of like, at least in my opinion, the game is like with the game design. So like a lot of these cool cards you can't play because these things are holding it back. So once you remove it from the game, then we have a lot of different options, and then new things we'll see that we'll never see before.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I mean, I know that some people are really uncomfortable because they found something that they really like and they know what
Hmm.
happens, they know how they're playing it. But I think rotations will, I mean, help everyone grow in their skill set and keep things more
Mm,
fresh. Because it
yeah.
is like we've basically been seeing the same types of decks rotate with a couple cards difference each set. Like
Yeah.
some decks this set might have only added 2 cards of one, like one card went into a deck from last
Right.
set and it's winning. Um,
Right.
so I'm
Right.
excited for that, and also for people that are newer to TCGs, one like myself included, that I had to learn. There's people like yourself or Wonderland or, you know, pretty much anybody that have played other TCGs for years. And so a
Right.
lot of, even though they're not the same cards, it's like when they say wheel and that goes, it's like Wheel of Fortune and Magic, which is our whole new world.
Yeah.
They've played against such similar deck styles and decks. They've learned the
Yeah.
foundation that you're learning now, that I've
Yeah.
been learning now, to kind of already see that. Um, so that's also what gives them a little bit of a leg up, and this is why I know that card won't work. But sometimes there's
Right.
surprises. There's
Yeah.
cards that are like, people will say like, this card's trash, it's never going to see play, or
Right.
there's cards that everyone gets really excited about, like Ink Geyser, that we didn't really
Yeah.
see much of.
Yeah.
Um, that kind of pop up too. So, I mean, I
Yeah.
always say, if you to your point, if you enjoy it, if it's fun to you, like toss it in there and
Play
figure it
it.
out. You can
Yeah.
always have some flavor. And you also can
Yeah.
always play theme decks with friends. You
Yeah.
just might not win, you know, a top 8
As
with it.
often as you could, right? That's about
Right.
it, right?
Yeah.
But like not everyone, and I know that not everyone's goal is to be the most competitive player. Like there are a certain group, but like from the majority of people that I've spoken to, not everyone wants to be, Zen
Yeah.
or Kendall, right? Not most people don't want to be as much as, but in the competitive space, I get it. Like competitive players, they can't understand. They don't, not they can't, but they don't really understand like how come people who play more casually can't see this, or why can't they be more like that, right? And versus on the other side, the casual space is like, why are the competitive players always like that? They're always so like
Yeah.
condescending or dismissive. It's really not. It's just kind of how
The play
the
style. Yeah.
mindset's different. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, so kind of one last thing that kind of brought me to, I'll try to, like, it's so exciting. This is so fun. I feel like you and I could sit here all day on this stuff. But so For people that are trying to just build a deck from scratch, something that's fun,
Hmm.
it's competitive enough at League, but, it's not gonna be a top tier deck, right? So top tier decks,
Hmm.
I'm probably gonna explain this horribly because this is how my Disney mom brain, you have, like, your
All right.
your tier S, right? Like, you have your top decks, which are maybe you explain it, teacher. How do you explain top tier decks?
um, Getting an A+ in
Oh,
school terms.
see, you're simplifying it, yeah. I mean, so it's just the decks that I find to be, like, overpowered, they're really big, they're very
Yeah.
specific, they're heavily competitive, it's something that you would bring to a DLC if you wanted to do well.
Yeah.
But you can make really fun decks that are still
Hmm.
competitive,
Hmm.
especially at a league level,
Hmm.
that can still win you set champions. I know that I have a friend, Lorcana Rogue, who's also a judge,
Yeah.
for PPG at DLC, and he really loves any kind of underdog deck. Like, how do we build an
Yeah.
underdog deck that's super fun that can still win?
Yeah.
So learning these concepts, like from JDRR and other places can still help your
Hmm.
really fun deck if you like Madrigal decks
Yeah.
are totally a thing. I mean, they can
Yeah.
even beat competitive decks. You
Yeah.
can still win and do well learning these concepts on how to build that deck and what it needs to answer and what you're playing against you. So,
Hmm.
um, yeah, I mean, building a foundation and learning different things like resources and I tossed out the word cantrip. So cantrip's a card that replaces itself, so things like that where you're like,
Yeah.
all right, if I'm sitting here by turn 5 and I have no cards in hand and I have no other ways to get cards, that's a problem that you have to solve. Um,
Mm.
but there's a lot of fun decks out there for you to start as a basis, which is what I always have told people. Go find some decks that are winning or that other people have built, especially if you can
Mhm,
engage with them like on 20 Lure Pro or I mean
mhm,
that's more
mhm.
competitive, but I don't know. Do you have any advice for people that are wanting to build a fun deck that still can perform somewhat well?
Um, what I would tell people is always figure out what the game plan, the strategy of that deck is first, right? So, what is the strategy, or what is the card you want to build around, right? So, for whatever card you choose, like Beyond the Horizon, like we talked about, yeah, we can build around it, right? You disrupt your opponent, but you still need something. You still need to win the game. So, how are we going to win the game, right? So, I would say figure all that out first when you're trying to build a deck around something or around the theme. Like for the Madrigals, for example, right? Let's read all the cards. Like, what are the Madrigals really good at, right? I'm trying to think on top of my head right now. When I played theme decks with Madrigals, they were very good at just getting more cards, right?
Mhm.
They're able to help each other out, right? They buff each other a lot of the time when you have specific Madrigals together, right? So, like, okay, well, you need to focus more on that synergy. Or if, what's another theme deck? The puppies, the puppy deck,
Yeah.
right? That leans a little bit more aggro. Okay, well, if that's kind of what the cards are, then don't try to make it something it's not, right? Like I get it. Like a lot of people want to be um the inventor of something brand new, right?
Yeah.
Because I get it. Like everyone feels good when you build something new and it actually works, right? I get it. But we all have to look at what's given and what the cards are actually good at, and then focus in on that first. So it's something that we've seen do really well. So, like, take Ed, for example, when he won the North American Continentals, he built his Ruby Amethyst list specifically to beat one deck, which was Ruby Sapphire, right? And it did his job, did it very well, as we watched in the finals as well. So that's why I would make sure that you figure out the strategy first. Then, once you figure out the strategy, start playing against every deck and see what you lose to, and then you have to ask yourself, is this deck or is this matchup something that I'm okay with losing? Or is this deck way too popular that I need to figure out how to beat it? Right. So
Yeah.
for
And
example, with Blurple, right? If you looked at ink decks, it had a 50% or higher win rate against every deck except for Steel Song. So then you have to ask yourself, well, if you bring it to your set champs, how many people play Steel Song? If everyone plays Steel Song, maybe that's not the right deck to bring, right? But if no one plays Steel Song, well, yeah, I feel pretty good about it, right? So you also have to look at the deck itself and who you're playing into.
Yeah, and remembering that there should never be a deck that wins against everything, or that's when there's a ban.
That would be tier 0 and that best deck.
Yeah, so know that you're gonna lose, to your point, like, I think that was something you're like, "Oh, well, I always lose to this one deck," to your point. Know that you're always gonna lose to at least one deck, to you just have to weigh out how often will you see it, and knowing this
Mhm.
is a Disney card game, and so Ravensburger, is it Ravensburger or Ravensburger? I feel like I hear it both
I
ways, and I
honestly
never know
don't
the
know.
okay. We'll just use both of them and we'll be right half the time. It's fine. So Ravensburger is building a Disney game. And so there's lots
Mhm.
of synergies, kind of like with the Madrigals or the
Yeah.
puppies. So they have a lot of things. So if you really have a favorite movie, or if you're playing with your kids and you want to make it really, really fun, they're building
Mhm.
this game so you can have theme decks. And now that we're going into chapter 8, there are enough cards now to have really good full
Mhm.
theme decks where you can do that
Mhm.
really
Mhm.
successfully. And even if you're competitive, I really recommend doing it because I feel like it's just fun. Like, have a fun casual night, and you get to play with cards that you might not always see.
Yeah.
But I agree, reading the cards is so important. And as you have this new set, we now have all of them, and we have the opportunity to see them before it comes out next week. So go
Mhm.
on Dreamborn, go through the Ravensburger Disney Lorcana Twitch as they're doing announcements. Those are always fun to watch because they're giving
Mhm.
you these cards over time so you can learn them and read them and not be as overwhelmed when a new set comes out.
Yeah.
And luckily, you have lots of fans like us that are already theory crafting. So
Yeah.
if you don't got the creative juices flowing, I guarantee you that there's tons of other people already tossing out theories.
Right.
Um,
Right.
well, so kind of looking at wrapping this up, I mean, so before we close out, what's one thing you wish every player knew sooner in their Lorcana journey?
Um, I think I already said this already. Play the deck that you have the most fun with. And at the end of the day, um, if your goal is to just to play and get better and have fun, not necessarily winning DLCs, it doesn't matter what people tell you. It doesn't matter what a pro player tells you if the card is good or bad. Because there's no one, or who are we, or who is anyone to tell you what to do, right? Like, it's your life, it's your game. Play the way you want to play it. And because I see like way too many people, they lose interest in the game because they force themselves to play the best deck and they're not having fun anymore. And then they leave the game and never come back.
Mhm.
Right. So ultimately, like, play what you like, have fun with it, because this is a game, and then games are supposed to be fun, not
Yeah.
stressful.
And even the best player is wrong. Like, there's been many a time where there was, like we said earlier, a card
Oh,
that
for
they're like,
sure.
"Oh, this is crap," and then it ended up
Iago.
taking the world by storm. Yeah.
They're
Iago's
like,
had
this
its
card is
day.
terrible. Why would you
Yeah.
want anyone play this card? And then Iago was everywhere.
Yeah. He had his
Yeah.
day. He had his day. And so where can people find you if they wanna connect or get coaching or follow your journey?
Yeah. So people can find me on Metafy. I have two free guides, like we talked about, the Blurple and Purple Steel guide, completely free, which I'm working on updating for set 8. So you can follow me on there. You could also follow me on Twitter. I do have a Twitter now, which is, I don't remember the handle. It's probably JDRR Lorcana, just something
Something, yeah,
along those
yeah.
lines. It's something like that. You'll find me there. Or there are people that want to support me as well, and they're and that's where like the flower farm community is. Um, there's like about 200 people there right now in the community, so that's where like people kind of get like first dibs on everything and kind of get like all my brain dumps, whatever you want to call
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
about something. Yeah. So that's where they kind of get it all from. But mostly it's just like a community of people. Because like we talked about with Disney, like, it's supposed to be fun. It's a community. We just want like good vibes all around. And really that's what I created that community for, not just to get better, but also like a place where you can meet other people, make friends who play a similar deck as you, right? And just a place to hang out. Because right now it's just like too much negativity everywhere. in
Oh,
the
for
world
sure.
in general. Like we don't need that. We just need
No.
more positivity, just more good places, more good vibes all around.
Yeah, no, I agree, and especially if you found that Blurple or Purple Seal is the deck for you. I know there's a few other players like yourself that if that's your vibe, and I mean, and you've enjoyed listening to JDRR here, and it's
Yeah,
your play style and your learning style, I couldn't recommend investing in that more because you're not just investing in learning, you're investing in a community to what you said. Um, and like you're keeping ahead because I have a friend that's in Siler's Ruby Sapphire build. She's been on Ruby
yeah,
Sapphire for 4 sets. And
yeah,
there's just a lot of conversation because, for example, my friend Skylar has always been well known for blue steel. And so we'll chat other
yeah,
things. He's very, very intelligent, like knows the game really well, and we'll chat,
yeah,
but he's still not going to know Blurple like JDR would be, like would, because you're play
yeah.
testing it, you're getting so many more reps than what they would.
Right.
So if you found a deck and a style that you like, and you have a community like JDRs that you can join, you're not just investing in friendship and community and learning, but you're also
Hmm.
really
Exactly.
investing in a I would always call it ping ponging, like it's a worm. You're able to pass your ideas. It's very collaborative. It's not like
Yeah.
you're just going in there
Right.
and getting talked to by JDRR. It's a
Right.
community
Right.
of going
No.
back
No.
and forth of saying, "Hey,
Yeah.
what about this card? Here's my thoughts." You have people coming back and forth with you, which that's
Right.
invaluable. Like being able to talk through
Right.
ideas, and everyone
Right.
building
Right.
off of each other too. So if that's where you're
Right.
at, make sure you check out JDRR. If it's another
Right.
deck that you're interested in, there's probably
Right.
a community for you that would work really really
Right.
well.
Yeah, because like what I love the most is that there's like so many people now that um who've joined the Discord and they might not talk, which is fine. Not everyone has to
Yeah,
engage, but they're always in the background reading, right? Some people just like to be in the background reading. Some people like to be vocal, which is fine. But the amount of success I've seen other people have because they either read the guide or they're in the Discord, they're reading like everything that like we're all talking about and discussing. Like that's all we really want, right? Like
yeah,
one of my favorite memories in Lorcana was this girl. She's never played trading card games before. Um, and like I was the first person she reached out to for help. And then because her first set champ, she got like obliterated. She won like zero games. She's like, I do not, this is not fun. Like I want to win um the promo. Then like she worked with me throughout this and she was in the Discord for like 3 months until the next set champs. And then she came back and got top four. Right. And then like it was one of my favorite memories because she was like overly excited because like this has never happened to her before.
yeah,
And she was just like, I'm so proud of myself. Like I feel so accomplished right now. And like that's really why I like enjoy coaching is because seeing other people succeed. Um that to me is I think the most rewarding part of it.
yeah.
Is it
I
yeah.
love it.
It might be a little selfish. I feel good about it.
Yeah, no, I love it. I feel the same way. It's nothing better. I mean, I've had that moment from people that have helped me. I was sitting, it was even this set champs, to be honest with you. You have those little light bulb moments where you're like, not necessarily a core memory, but like transformative moment of when my best friend and I played. So like this is a really great community, but still with trading card games for kids and women, sometimes it's hard to find your
Hmm.
kind of hard to find your spot at the beginning. And we had gotten, I mean, I was doing all right, but we were really having trouble, um, not necessarily being taken this seriously. We are the Disney moms. We literally like,
Right.
I mean, I'm wearing Mighty Ducks today. I was showing JDR this. I decided it was a great day to get ducks yesterday for my kids, and we live on a golf course. But if you're watching this, it's like the best Mighty Duck shirt ever. It says quack quack quack. But this is like what we wear all the time. Like for heaven's sakes, like my shoes are Disney. It's all the things. So we were exactly what these pro, like I say pro, they're not really pro, but
Hmm.
TCG guys that are coming in for Magic are probably dreading with when Lorcana came out. Like,
Right.
here comes the Disney fans. And she and I decided, you know what, like poo poo on them. Like we're gonna come back in and kick their booties.
Yeah.
And we just started grinding. Like that was what we
Love
did. So
it.
like
Yeah.
spite wins are great. Like it was, and then
Yeah.
when our kids started beating them, like
Right.
Oh my gosh, it was so good.
Right.
But when I was sitting across this last set champs, to kind of get back to the point, ADHD shiny butterfly was
Mm.
I had never played your Blurple deck before. I've never played Blurple. I
Right.
just scanned, I'd watched Aaron play. I had read through your guide, maybe 5 minutes. I don't even know if I had the time for that because I was like, I'm just going to try
Right.
this. But because I've invested in myself and invested in learning, I was able to sit
Hmm.
across and feel really comfortable with a deck that I probably couldn't even tell you what cards were in the deck at the time. I roughly had an idea because I put it together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I understood how it worked. But I'm an Amethyst player. Like I've played Amethyst. So
Yeah.
you like I
Yeah.
think that sold me when I think in your guide it said the core is Amethyst.
Yeah.
Oh, look, I did this thing
Look
again.
at that.
Oh, I gotta go back and fix it. It'll be fine. I have this one camera and it like zooms in. Anyways, if you're staring at the
Or leave
forest
it
in my
in there.
nose, you're welcome. I should get a sponsor from Neutrogena or something. But yeah, so like because of that, because of investing in my learning with the
Hmm.
foundation, I was able to pick up a deck with knowledge from a good coach like you and do well with it. So
Hmm.
I that was one of my things where I was like, man, I've reached a new level in my Lorcana journey that I'm truly understanding this. I'm at the point where like I'm okay. I'm understanding and able to ask myself the better
Right.
questions, like you said,
Right.
where I'm like, okay, all right. And it's
Right.
because of people like you that I was able to do that.
Yeah.
So, even though you've not coached me in a way you have because you coached me through your deck. So it's
Yeah.
crazy like the impact that you've had on so many people across the
Yeah.
board.
Yeah. For sure. For sure. I mean, um, it makes me happy that the time I put in, people are actually utilizing it and seeing
Yeah.
success from it because that's the whole point, right? Um, and to add, like, my favorite people to coach are not seasoned TCG players. They're actually people who are brand new, like yourself. You know why?
Because you know how to untrain us.
Uh-huh. Because a lot of players have so many bad habits from
Yeah.
other games, whereas you guys start off as a blank slate. That's why I love I love like when I was I love teaching children because um it's they are always willing to learn and they always have an open mind. They don't have the bad habits yet, right? So that's why I love coaching new players because you're able to start it right from the start and then you put them on the right path.
So you don't have to unwind us. Yeah, we bring baggage, just not from other TCGs. That's what we do.
That's fine.
No,
And
I
just
love
other
it.
bad habits are very hard to undo. Like a habit in general is very hard to undo when you have the habit already from other games.
Oh, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
I mean, so
That's
see,
why.
look, yeah, now that makes me think of things. Yeah, no, I totally agree with this. Now I'm probably building my new bad habits, so I need to pause now before they're horrible, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it happens to everyone, right? Like I have bad habits too. So happens to
Yeah.
everyone. Yeah.
Well, so the other place to make sure that you're checking out JDRR is on Dreamborn. I'm sure you probably keep your most up to date decks on there, but if you ever see his name, know that the decks that I know that you're putting out are ones that you've tested heavily. And if you
Mhm.
like them, you can always go over to his Metafy or hit him up on X/Twitter and ask more questions and possibly get coaching.
Yeah.
Um,
For sure.
but yeah, so if you took anything away from this episode, it's that there's no one right way to play Lorcana. So finding your style is just as important as learning the meta, but not as important as enjoying yourself. So if you're feeling
Mhm.
stuck, there's definitely guidance out there, whether it's on Metafy or coaching or communities like the Flower Farm or 20 Lore Pro or Inknet Gaming, all those things. But huge thanks to you, JDRR, for sharing all of your insight and like energy and love for the community. And if
No problem.
you're yeah, and if you're listening in or if you're watching on YouTube, make sure that you like, subscribe, and drop a comment with any questions. And I will have all the links to JDR stuff. And if you're having a brewing struggle, pop them down. Maybe we can see if we can help you out. But we would love hearing from you. And hey, keep playing, keep learning, and always play your way.